Whenever I get an opportunity, I like to have him speak. I've already told him he does not have to praise the program or me. More as a teaching moment, Joe is not just an alumni, but one of the prime examples of business leaders in America today and how they grow and are competitive here. I think that his team that just finished talked about them winning for the 8th time, perhaps, not just the fastest growing, but the best place to work. And those two things, while two sides of the same coin, may sound easy, but rapid growth is incredibly stressful, and typically you can have one or the other. You can be a very happy place, but not growing, or you can be a very rapidly growing, but often stress-filled, unhappy place. To have both year after year is a real achievement. And Joe built this on start with people and business success follows. And that's what I hope differentiates us as a management program from all the other management programs, is we're about leadership, which is based on leading people, and if they follow you, then you get the business results. But the critical thing is that people are happy because work is a critical part of who we are. As much as family, faith, work is where we get the other third, perhaps, of who we are. So he's doing a heck of a job here, and again, we're always proud that he is an alumni of this program. So, Joe, I'll turn it over to you. You know how all this works.
Thank you. I knew Ed certainly when he didn't have that good a haircut. And a proud brother of yours from probably the class of '96 maybe. So I think it's going to be a big anniversary coming up. But I will say, Ed and UIC changed the course and set the course for us in so many ways. I came with the first group of people to go through the program. I couldn't have even imagined how am I going to find in the busyness of the early days of the business. We were about 9 years old at the time, barely 9. How was I going to find those, at that time, 12 weekends that I'm going to have to go away and work on this? The best investment that we ever did. And I think that's true for two things, is the highest return on investment in an organization is education and planning. There are neither, you cannot spend hours doing anything in an organization other than education and planning that have a greater return on investment. Once you conceptualize it and turn it into a machine or a process or a cash flow or whatever it is, you already know that rate of return. Where the real rate of return is in education and planning. Time that's spent in those two activities far exceeds any other rate of return. And we had Rolando and Lori in this class, and I will get a copy of their presentation and read it. But I already know it's excellent because they do excellent work even before they come to class. We've graduated over 100 people through UIC. It's fundamentally one of the most important reasons for our success. In our earliest first class, we designed the organization way back then because we were challenged to map our process. And our process really was revenue generation. That's identified the customer, followed by marketing, followed by sales, followed by laboratory work, followed by creative work followed by documenting them into a specification and a process. So as you've probably already learned, we're in the flavor business, so we work with the large food companies in earning a specific approval in a specific product, in a specific brand, and we really become their partners so that when you taste that candy product or that breakfast cereal or that microwave popcorn, we've worked hard through that process, maybe 2 years, maybe longer, in earning that approval, which becomes usually single source. We're that partner. We're that part of the brand. So we really have to be committed to building our brand. On the order fulfillment side, which was a word I had never heard of before UIC, sounds kind of funny, we work a little more like a traditional business. Our customer service people get an order. They have to check inventory if they don't have it, or the sub-assemblies, they have to buy them. They have to position them, manufacture them, package it, QC it, label it, and ship it. And then at the end of that long process, we get to do one of my more favorite things, and I'm sure yours too, we get to invoice it. And as pointed out, that could be a 3-year process before our first invoice on that process happens. And so just by mapping that gave us a sense of patience, a sense of confidence, a bunch of gates that we could think our way through as we moved towards that day when we might actually generate revenue from a product. Again, a UIC discipline from the time that we had never done, because I'm sure Ed has used the quote, this is the time to work on your business, not in your business. And UIC this program drives a lot of our thinking to this very day throughout the organization. How has the world changed, as time goes on? I would say from our original plans, we realized there's a business author, and you guys will know him, Kotter, Kotters. He said the most interesting thing. He said that actually 2 things to become, when he said this, by the way, I knew it was FONA. He said 2 things have to happen simultaneously for an organization to be sustainably successful. The first one, going up on a 45-degree line, is you have to differentiate yourself. You have to become excellent at, I'm looking down at sensory. You have to be excellent at regulatory. You have to be the SQFI plant of the year. You have to have a great culture. That's how an organization differentiates itself. So as we've grown, I can say we've been so blessed, thank you, God. I'd like to say it was me. I usually make enough mistakes to kill the business, but thank you, God. We've been blessed by an organization that has a hunger to differentiate itself and become the best production group, the best sensory group, the best sales group. So that differentiation angle, as you kind of picture it going up. And they said the other reason that makes great companies, and I knew it was FONA, is they say, and at the same time as you grow over time and as complexity increases, because obviously it gets more complex, right, when you differentiate yourself, you have to be integrated or stay the same. It hit me like a ton of bricks, is the successful companies do drive for excellence, but they have a way to stay the same. And staying the same for us has been the bedrock of our culture. I think we make as many decisions for the business based on culture as we do certainly on the profit motive, or we believe in that culture. Now let me tell you why culture is important, so important, and it's so clear to me that FONA's success is that ability to differentiate itself as the world has become more complex, and over time we've gotten better everywhere, but our culture has kept us the same. We've been on the bedrock of the same values through that time, and you can see them there posted in the hallway. So you have to ask yourself, what is culture? So I have to take you one other place, and that is, we're all called to, develop our characters, right? And so our character, how do we become a little better person? How do we become, a better person? Well, I heard one day the measurement of personal character is what happens when no one's looking, when no one would ever find out what you're doing. What is your standard, and I mean this on a lot of levels. What happens when you're the only car on the expressway and there's nobody else around? Are you a speeder? What happens, I don't know, when you're alone, are you watching like the grossest movies in the world or something like that, Personal character is what happens. What rules do you use for yourself when no one's looking? Kind of simple, right? So then, how about in a corporation? Culture is the set of rules that guides the organization when there's not a boss around, when there's not an owner around, when there's nobody around who would ever know. So the culture of the organization is what decides what gets done here at 4:30 or 5 or 6 or 7, when the boss would never know, had no influence, what gets done during the workday when the boss wouldn't know. That's the power of culture. And so it became so clear to me when I saw Cotter's drawing that, yes, we've managed to become excellent, differentiate ourselves, but yes, we're the same culture. May beg the question, how do you keep the culture the same? And I'm probably talking too long for you, but I heard this guy say it. He said it by accident. It was one of our bankers, and it was about New Year's resolutions. And he was talking about his brother and his sister, and their family, and how they're, some of them happened to live in the North Shore, some lived in the near north, as I recall, somewhere around Lincoln Park. But he said, yeah, our family had a family meeting, he said, and we decided as our New Year resolution that on the first Sunday of the month that we're going to have dinner together, whether we like it or not. And I thought that was such a funny thing to say. Whether we'd like it or not, we're having dinner. And then I thought it was so wise, because a culture needs touch points. If you want to have a culture, we're going to get together where we like it or not. So in our case, it's employee meetings once a month. We're going to have a great breakfast. We're going to try to recognize our people. We're going to have a hot lunch for our employees, usually sponsored, incidentally, by one of our ethnic groups. So we had Cinco de Mayo. We've had many of our Indian people of Indian descent personnel cook Indian food for us, and again we have it. So we have the employee meeting. That's become a ritual, whether we like it or not. We've had hot lunch program, and we've had a quarterly management meeting where we invite the bulk of the organization to hear everything for a day and a half that's going on in the organization. And I would point out about that quarterly management meeting, you think people know what's going on, but they don't. Second part of it is that bad habits are formed every 90 days. So having that meeting allows our executives and our managers to correct things that have gone adrift, have kind of floated off into some distraction, and get the organization refocused on what we were trying to do for that quarter, for that year. And I think those reasons, that staying the same, regardless of all the improvements we made, we managed to stay the same. And like that banker, that wise banker, yeah, we're getting together with our family, whether they like it or not, has been a hallmark of building just a great culture. And I'm just proud of you all. You are forever changed for the good by this program. It sets thinking in tone, and I should point out that learning's a lifelong deal. So what this course really gave you was the ability to, and I know it's happened to our executive team, choose other even more difficult, demanding courses that you can take on your own. I prefer executive education to pro-formal, but I can tell you I've gone to, UIC courses, U of C courses. Our people have gone to INSEAD courses, which is like the European Harvard, We've had people go to, Harvard-type courses, and this course has prepared you. You go there as smart as any other adult executive, and you can handle the work. Your brain will hurt a little bit, but this lays such a good foundation that you should never be afraid of taking an advanced course on strategy, an advanced course on finance, whatever fits you well. And I encourage you to be lifelong learners. So with that, I've talked a little longer than I thought. I just want to recognize this program for the tremendous contribution that it's made to the success of our organization, and most importantly, to the individual careers and successes of our people and that collective thing we call the culture. So thank you.